Welcome to Behind the Audition podcast with your host, Curt Hilton. Listen in on interviews with voiceovers, filmmakers, producers, animators, and much more. Curt, a voice actor himself, will give insider tips to the business, talk with guests about how they got into the business, and be sure to stay tuned to the end of the podcast when he challenges his guests with a pop-up audition. Now it's time for Behind the Audition podcast. Here's Curt Hilton.
Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Audition podcast. On this episode, I got to speak to the amazing voice actor, Chris Johnson. We talked about how Chris started out as a voice actor, making the move to Los Angeles, using pay-to-play sites versus building business for your own company. What pay-to-plays work best, advice for those wanting to start out as a voice actor, social media and marketing tips, creating a demo, and much more. So sit back and enjoy another episode of Behind the Audition podcast.
And coming on the show now, I'm super excited. I've talked to this individual on TikTok, actually, through live, as well as we've talked on other social media platforms. You have heard his work on commercials, corporate videos, video games, animation, and even film. I'm excited to talk about that. Coming to the show right now is the one and only Chris Johnson. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Curt?
I'm doing fantastic. Had a good Mother's Day weekend. Enjoyed some weather here in North Carolina. How about you?
Excellent. I was actually in New York City this past weekend, and one day was great weather, and the other days it was pretty rainy. But hey, made the best of it.
That's awesome. It seems like the weather can't make up its mind. I think half the time the meteorologists are lying to us, but you can't change it and just have fun what you got, right?
Just got to roll with it. Absolutely.
So, I was talking to you before the show. You've done a lot of fun work in the voiceover industry. Starting back when you got into this industry, what did you do first?
Yeah, so I wanted to, when I was first starting out and getting my first commercial demo produced and everything, I wanted to have like the brand of my voice, but also stay as general as possible so I could be as marketable within various sectors of voiceover as possible. And so really got a foothold in the corporate video scene pretty early on. And then kind of stemmed out from there and did some e-learning work, and then some like local commercials in various regions came about and things like that too. Yeah.
When most of us are in e-learning narration and in that line of work, where did you go to find that work when you first got into that line of work?
Yeah, I think my first e-learning job, I think it came from a pay-to-play site, and actually that has turned into one of my most regular clients. I have a client who produces a bunch of e-learning for several of their clients, and just through there, I did the job. It was medical in nature with lots of fun terminology to look up and be specific on the pronunciations with, and it just kind of rolled into a regular thing, which is a great thing in this industry for sure.
Absolutely. So going back to pay to plays, a lot of us will be on Voice 123. That's where I started my first pay to play back in 2007. And then there's Voices, and there's other freelance sites. What one has worked the best for you, and why did you choose that one?
Yeah, I think I also started out with 123. I think that was the very first one that I joined. And the one that has been the best for me is probably actually Badalgo.
Okay.
Which is a smaller one, a lot of European clients, but I've found some good success with that, and have been able to form some good relationships with some of the clients that I've met through there.
Yeah, I just set up an account there. I don't know too much about it. So let us know. Is it, I saw there is a monthly fee for that, but can you get hired on that platform even if you don't pay the monthly fee?
That is a good question. I don't know. I know that the owner of the site screens the talent and is a good representative of fighting for fair wages and make sure that the projects on there are good quality projects for the voice actors alike. But I don't know much about the free profile. I've never had the free version on there actually. So.
Okay, absolutely. And, I know you like to build your own brand. I've been on your website. You have a really nice website. How much time do you think you spend working with pay-to-play sites compared to working on your own brand?
Yeah, I know there are a lot of voice actors who just rinse the pay-to-play sites, and some find very good success with that. It's kind of it's just a tool in my tool belt is how I view it. So I audition regularly on the sites that I'm on, but then I make sure that I carve out a good amount of time each week to work on my own marketing, and the majority of the work that I get does come from my own direct marketing efforts.
We see a lot of voice actors giving us some great coaching tips online. You'll see some saying, they'll spend, or actually they'll get only 10% of those auditions that they audition as
Yeah.
bookings. So you're thinking you get one out of 100 or one out of 50. So
Yeah.
what would you say would be a good amount of time to spend on your own brand, like compared to how many auditions would you feel comfortable with instead of marketing your own business?
Yeah, I mean, I think that especially early on, marketing your own brand is essential. Like when I first started out, I having my own website was absolutely key because
Mhm.
I mean, some of the pay to play sites, offer you, you get your profile page and with your, your own unique URL and everything.
Mhm.
But if I'm direct marketing myself to clients, the last thing that I want to do is send them to a website with a bunch of other voice actors as like here's my site.
Mhm.
So having your own website I think it's key. So
Right.
developing your own sense of self prior to jumping into any pay to play site, I think is preferable for up and coming talent for sure.
Absolutely. We're all on LinkedIn and we all learn to network that way. We all find each other on social media. I see you on TikTok and you're great in that community. I'll give you a shout
Thanks.
out on that. I'll see you do your lives because we get the famous question probably 9 times out of 10. I want to be a voiceover. How do I do that? And
Yep.
I think it's good that you actually can filter some of those questions on your platform. How important is it to ask those questions before doing? Because I do see there are a lot less getting into the industry now. It seems since the things are opening back up, people are going back to what they were doing because this didn't work out for them.
Yeah.
What is some good research for those getting into this industry before they do it?
Yeah, I think so. What I always tell people on my TikTok lives and everything who ask this question are one to take advantage of your free resources first and foremost before you make any financial equipment. I think sometimes it might be tempting to go out and buy a mic and buy a whole bunch of gear, but before you really even get a handle on what all it's going to entail, because
Mhm.
I mean, there's a lot. So I think utilizing free resources for up and coming talent is key. I always point them to the website. I want to be a voiceactor.com, D. Bradley Baker's site, which is a great resource that answers a lot of those beginning questions. So
Mhm.
that and just like uh, consuming interviews with other voice actors on YouTube, see what they say about the industry, exploring what others voice actors are doing on social media. I think is a good way to just kind of sample what the industry is like and if it's going to be something that they want to pursue before they even get into coaching and training and all of the next essential steps.
Now, you being one of those that have been successful on that platform, TikTok, I'm talking about, to other voice actors who want to kind of understand that platform, what how does it work for you and what content do you focus on to help your brand?
Yeah, I think well, it feels like a moving target a lot of days, especially with TikTok and trying to figure out how the algorithm works. But I mean, I go into all my social media presence trying to be as authentically me as possible, and so a lot of all of my content is voice actor related and tips or things that I come across that I have found helpful to me throughout my career that I can speak to firsthand and maybe pass on that knowledge to people who are finding those similar roadblocks. So there are a lot of ways to succeed and kind of tackle the voiceover industry, but I can only speak to what I've found work for me and what my other voice acting friends have told me has worked for them as well. And kind of field those questions based on my personal experience. So coming from that space and trying to trying to just relate my own experience to that is kind of how I tackle all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, you crack me up. Some of the times I'll get on there when you're on live, I'm like, oh, I got to get on there because you'll get there's some voice actors like yourself, but there's ones
Yeah.
that ask the question, "Hey, do this voice," or "Hey, you're like, "No, I'm not going to do that."
Well, and I think
It's
that's
so
also
funny.
it is because it's an interesting thing because there are a lot of great voice actors, especially on social media platforms, who do great impressions,
Yeah,
and who are spot on, and it's great for social media and for their brand.
yeah,
But I'm not particularly great at impressions.
yeah.
I focus on kind of my own thing and developing my own characters for character
Hmm.
work and things like that. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's not something that I am great at. Just like do a George Bush. I'm like,
Yeah,
no,
right. Yeah, exactly.
not gonna happen. Not gonna
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. Well, is it, I do this thing that I probably drive my family around the house nuts. I'll do voices, or I'll see something, or I'll hear something on TV and I'll try to make it my own, or I'll try to replicate it. I think it's because once we get out of the house
Yeah.
or somebody hears you're a voice actor, they automatically assume you can do a voice, and it's almost uncomfortable, isn't it? But you'll do it at home in front of everybody at
Yeah.
home.
I
It's,
mean,
it's, it's
I
funny.
get it. I get where the question is coming from, and if you run into a comedian on the street, you expect them to be funny,
Right.
So like, I understand, but I try to use it as kind of almost a teaching tool to be like, hey, there's a lot more to what goes on, kind of behind the scenes in voice acting than just
Absolutely.
doing voices.
So what line of work were you in before voice acting? I know you were in Cincinnati. What were you doing before you got into voice acting?
Yeah, so I grew up in Cincinnati, and I've been in LA for just over 12 years now, actually. And I did not come out here for voice acting. It wasn't even on my radar until about 2014. And I was working at a digital media company before that. And yeah, kind of doing working with the digital sales team and doing pricing and planning work, which actually has come in very handy in
Hmm.
running my own voiceover business. So for the business side of it, at least.
Do you remember your first like audition, like one that you bombed? You're like, oh my gosh, like what did I get myself into? Was ever one of those times that happened?
Um, yeah, I think there were definitely some nerve-wracking moments for sure, and in ones that like tested your resolve early on and show like how prepared you need to be. Pretty early on, I did a round of auditions virtually, and
Hmm.
then I went into a studio to do another round of auditions. It was like a
Hmm.
half an hour, hop in the booth, they direct you and whatnot. And I think it was for a video game project. And I did that. It went great. Everything was cool. Went home, and then they emailed me that when they were trying to upload all my stuff to the client, everything crashed and they lost
Oh,
everything that they had done. And so they were like, remember all those notes that we were going over? Can you just re-record everything tonight so that we and so I had to do it.
oh my
And
gosh.
so like, yeah, like in that moment, like the sheer utter panic of like, oh my God, it was is really, really testing.
So playing video game characters, how like is that like something you really want to get into, like the whole video game industry, or is it, do you like doing narration? Which ones do you prefer to be in?
Yeah, I think it's challenge. They're both challenging in their own way. I think I like doing the corporate and e-learning stuff for reasons, but I do want to expand a little more into my character work. I'm actually in the process of getting a character demo created.
Hmm.
One of my goals this year. So yeah, I definitely want to expand more into that. Get that demo created, and then start being able to market myself a little more into that arena as well, for sure.
Absolutely. And speaking of that whole realm, coaching for video games, how do you find a coach that fits that realm? Is there I know there's a lot of research, but what works for you? Are you one to like give up, call them up or send them an email? How do you prefer finding your coach nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, I usually just start with an email, and kind of get a sense, try to just kind of see how they like to work. I mean, you're only going to know so much until you get in the room or on a Zoom call with the coach to see how well you vibe with them and how well you learn from their teaching style. But just trying to see what their method is first and get them to explain, like, hey, this is how I work. This is what I like to do. And then kind of jump into that introductory session and just see if it vibes. And I'm always a fan too of, if finding a coach is great, but bounce around a little bit, because you're going to get different perspectives from different coaches and different nuggets of wisdom from various people in the industry. So I think it's okay to have a couple that you go to, maybe specializing in a certain area with a certain coach, and just kind of see how it comes out of that.
Absolutely. And when did you know you were ready to jump into this? I know it's a comfortable feeling when like you said, you're going back into going into the studio in front of everybody, or as well as, doing live direction. When did you know I'm ready? Because there are some that think they're ready, and then they do this and they don't have that thick skin built up, and they get that shock of disappointment. How did you know, look, I'm ready, I can do this?
Yeah, I think that I suffer sometimes from paralysis by analysis, right? So early on, I was a big measure twice, cut once person. So I need to make sure that I'm ready. So I'm gonna take this class again, just to make sure I didn't miss anything. And really, it really slowed. I moved through my early coaching and everything very slowly, probably too slow, but hey, and I wanted to make sure I had everything laid out. I had my website, had my demo ready to go, easily downloadable on this, like all of it. And so I just once I could once I could stand it no more of just analyzing it to death, I was like, okay, well, I just need to do it. I just need to start, because I want to make a good first impression. Everybody wants to make a good first impression, and not screw it up. So that weighs heavy on me, and it's something a challenge that I often have to push past with myself, for sure.
Absolutely. And I was on Clubhouse not too long ago, where we were talking about scripts. Some will use they'll go to different websites and they'll copy those scripts and put in the demos. I know they're not supposed to do that. What works for you for building a script? Do you have experience in writing copy, or how did you create your demo? Did you have a coach do that for you, or how was your demo made?
Yeah, I worked with a coach. So I took classes through Edge Studios, and then at the end of the program, I did some coaching sessions up at Voice Tracks West up here in LA, and had several sessions where I had more spots than I was going to put on the demo, and just kind of building the variety and building stuff that sounds good with my voice and with my delivery, and then just recording a whole bunch, and then trusting the producers to edit it down into a great, just over a minute marketable demo. So it's very collaborative, and really you should feel comfortable with everything that you're putting out there and that you're recording, because it's your calling card. It's what you're going to use to market yourself to prospective clients, to agents, to so you need to feel good about it, and you need to be involved in it as well. I feel. Yeah,
absolutely. Because you'll sit down, you'll listen to it, and maybe you have to switch up a little bit. Were you taught in Edge Studios how to edit your demo, or create your own demo, or was it professionally made for you there? And
it was professionally made there. Yeah.
But did you learn how to create it yourself? I mean, did they kind of give you the skills on how to do that, how to edit your own video? I'm sorry, your demo.
I mean, there are audio editing classes that I took for just because as voice actors we edit a bunch of our own stuff. Nothing demo specific, because which is fine, because I think doing it yourself can really trip you up sometimes, and I think having it professionally produced is 9.5 times out of 10 definitely the way to go, for sure.
Absolutely. And being you're in LA, I want to talk about agents. agents are either you like them or you don't like them, or they're just not doing anything for me. What are your thoughts about agents and finding the right one? Because that's a big topic right now on social media with a lot of voice actors. That they'll be happy they got one, but then you come 2-3 months on the road, they'll post not getting anything, or they're not doing anything for me. What are your thoughts of agents, and how do you know you found the right one?
Yeah, I think a lot of people sometimes view getting an agent as like a silver bullet solution, right?
Right.
But it really is just another tool in your tool belt. And I think that the agents, I have regional representation in a few different areas across the country, and the ones that work best for me are good with open communication. I know that if I have a question, that they're going to respond to me, and open to hearing what's going on in my career, and how how they can best market me, based upon what I've got going on. So just really the good communication factor is important to me for sure. And again, like as I kind of mentioned with pay to play, it's just another tool in your tool belt with agents. It's getting those opportunities and those auditions that you are not going to have access to unless you have some type of representation. So nothing changed in my day to day when I obtained my first agent. Like I'm still direct marketing myself, and a lot of good agents too will tell you, hey, you need to be doing the work on your end as well,
Right.
because it's a partnership, and
Right.
it'll only help both sides of the equation if you just continue to grind hard on your end as well.
I think we've all learned as voice actors too, never judge your success on somebody else's success, how
Right.
they're doing, and, how many agents they have, how many
Yeah.
bookings they're getting, because if you do that, it's going to be a depressing week, because, we're all,
Yeah.
we all don't sound the same. We're all not doing as successful as the other.
Absolutely.
And, one thing I do like the way that you talk about is, looking at where you're at to know where you're going to go. Right. And that's
Yep.
one thing I focus on. I got to know where I'm at today to know where I'm going to be at in, 3 weeks.
Yes.
Looking over your budget, looking over how much you're making, your marketing, what have you. So would you think as a successful business owner, because I like how you also say this is a business. This is not just, you're not a voice actor, you run a business. Your business is you, right? And I've heard you say, and I like that. So would you say being successful would be 60% your business, 30% pay to play, and 10% agent? Would you think that's realistic? Because I've heard maybe that you can get 10% from your agents.
Yeah, I think that's pretty close, and maybe even a little higher on your own direct marketing efforts as well. Because I mean, pay to play it's such a numbers game, and
Right.
there's just a bunch. There's just a lot of people there all vying for the same stuff, and there's a lot of subjectivity, and depending on the site as well. So like, direct marketing, you have a lot more control over your own messaging and your own
Right.
efforts and everything. So, and really, honestly, you have a lot more longer lasting, you can build longer lasting relationships, because I mean, a lot of jobs in this industry are can be very one-off, where
Right.
they need a voice for this thing, and great, and then you may not hear from them ever, or 6 months from now, you never know. But so being able to kind of build those authentic and genuine relationships with people through your own marketing efforts is gives you those returns to be able to kind of get more traction in your business long term, for sure.
Absolutely. I would agree with that too, because, if you think about it, you probably had this experience. I recently got this probably like a month and a half ago. I had a agency get back to me. It was an ad agency. They said, we actually go through the production company, or we go through this pay to play website. So they have specific, favorited voice actors on the roster, or they have the person at the pay to play site they can personally contact.
Yeah.
So I think it's good for you. You should be on there, because that's where specific agencies go through.
Yes.
And I thought that, I'm like, well, if you find these good ones, because there are some pay to play sites that charge you a lot, and plus you're paying 20%. So if you're happy with paying a yearly fee on top of 20%, you're really not making that much money off of that service when it comes down to it, because some e-learnings could be good, but some e-learnings don't pay anything.
Exactly. And I think you really have to be careful on some of those sites too, of auditioning for the things that pay fair rates, that are going to be good for you. You have to just be choosy with some of the projects on there, because I mean, you do come across projects on all these pay-to-play sites where it's not great overall for
Right.
the voice actor. The usage terms are not where they should be, and I just don't audition for those simply. Even if I know other people will audition for, but like you have to protect your own integrity and your own self-worth within the industry. So just kind of being selective on those sites is very important as well, I think, for sure.
So and I agree with that too, because you think about auditions are kind of like, can be like social media, like a big black hole. You could get
Yep.
sent through some pay to plays. You've probably had it too, where you get 40, 50 auditions. And when you first get into this, I remember, when I was on Voice 123 when it first came out, and you pay that $350, whatever it was, you had like 30 to 50 auditions, and you're like, yes, and you do them all, and at the end of the day, you're like, probably half of those I knew I wasn't going to get, or I was not right for. So I think, would you agree, as a voice actor, you really need to understand, like, look at the script and look at what you're auditioning before you do every single one? Because it's really a waste of time if you're not going to fit that. Wouldn't you agree?
It is. Yeah. I think there's a fine line between auditioning for some things that are challenging, that you do have a chance at maybe being in contention for, and things that you are not a fit for. And it goes into, which I think why like coaching and training up front is so important. It helps you develop your own self-realization and your own sense of self-directing yourself. So yourself, your own voice, what you can, your strengths and your weaknesses. And then being able to make those important selections of, I'm going to audition for this because it fits me, and this would be perfect for me. And you probably have a very low percentage shot of getting this other one. And because at the end of the day, there are only so many hours in a day, and how you spend your time and the auditions that you do submit, like that's money at the end of the day when you're grinding for every dollar that you have to make in the industry. So yeah, very important.
Isn't it how crazy how fast our days go as a voice actress? I always tell my wife, I'm like, my days, like, I feel like I don't have enough time sometimes, because you're thinking ahead, but then like you're marketing, like I was doing direct marketing. I was working on a playbook earlier too today.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got an interview. I got to get right to it. So it's nuts how time flies. Before we get to the fun audition here, I got to know, I see the little guy in the back, the blue.
Oh yes, my blue booth monkey. Yes.
Yes. So tell us the story behind that, because I do see that, and I've always wanted to ask. So what's the story behind the booth monkey?
And it's funny, I need to develop like an origin story for him that's more exciting than the fact that he doesn't really have a story. I just like had him around, and he sits on this little shelf window in my booth. And when I jumped on TikTok and started making TikTok videos, he's always just kind of perched up there, and
that's awesome,
and sitting down. And so like he's almost become like my little mascot, and people like seeing him. And whenever I do a TikTok live, I at least get one question about him. So I need to come up with some big origin story for him, for sure.
Oh my gosh. So is it gonna be like Wilson off of Castaway? If you ever lose your
Yeah, absolutely.
You come in there one day and he's not there, you'll be like, oh my gosh, where's the booth monkey?
Totally. And if I do a bad audition, we can always set him looking away from me, so he gets disappointed at me as well. So
that's awesome. Well, now it's time to have some fun. I have this thing called Behind the Audition challenge, and before the show started, I told you I wrote some fun copy for you. Being from Cincinnati, after you read this, we'll talk about it.
Yes.
But, go ahead and read this script as you would. Are you hearing it on the radio?
It's hot outside and you're hungry. It's time to sink your teeth into some nice, saucy chili. And not just any chili, some Cincinnati chili topped with crunchy graham crackers and marshmallows. Try Smilly, your s'mores and Cincinnati chili.
That was awesome. Okay, so let's talk about Cincinnati chili. I was growing outside St. Louis, we would make chili, and then we would take spaghetti noodles and we throw it into the leftover chili, and we call it chili mac, where we throw macaroni noodles and everything. And when I moved here to North Carolina, I met somebody that was from Cincinnati. I'm like, oh yeah, chili mac. And they're like, no, this is Cincinnati chili. Yeah. It's made with chocolate and cinnamon. And how can you eat chili mac with cinnamon and chocolate? Is it really that good?
It is excellent. So I actually worked at one of the chains in Cincinnati all through high school and a little after college, and I never got sick of the food. And I've introduced people out here in LA to it, because you can create a dip with it, with like cream cheese and onions and cheese for like great football snack while you're watching football or any sporting event. And it's just it is excellent. And it's a chili. It's more like a sauce than like a Texas chili or something,
Yeah.
So, but it is excellent, and a Cincinnati tradition for sure. There are alliances on which place is the best in Cincinnati. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, before we end the show, my cliche question I ask every time, for those newbies that come into this industry, what's some strong advice you'd give to those getting into this industry?
I think develop a well-rounded sense of what it's going to take to succeed, because I think sometimes you run into advertisements or little snippets on social media where it's like, oh, you can make money in your pajamas by talking into a microphone.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's what you think this is, then you have a rude awakening, because there's so many. There's the talent aspect of it, and then there is the running a business aspect of it. And being able to do both of those well are fundamental to succeeding, making the money that you need to pay the bills. And so I think ask around, ask questions of other voice actors, be a sponge of information and try to soak up as much information as you can, because the more information you have about this industry and really anything in life in general, but the more information that you have, the more well-informed you're going to be. And so you don't get into it, spend a whole bunch of money, and then be like, oh, I'm not hearing back from 90% of my auditions, and
Mm-hmm.
now I feel terrible. And that's the reality of the situation. So I think just gathering as much information as possible, and making a couple good networking connections within the industry that can shoot you straight and just give you the real deal on how things go.
Absolutely. And before we let you go, where can we find you on TikTok, Instagram? How can we, book you for a project?
Sure. Yeah. My website is vocalcj.com. I'm Vocal CJ on TikTok. I think I'm Vocal CJ1 on Instagram. And yeah, so those are kind of my main platforms. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. And I'm just kind of everywhere, but vocalcj.com is a good hub for all the goods.
Well, Chris, we'll have to do this again. I'm so thankful you took time out of your busy day to come talk to me here on the podcast. Yeah. Chris Johnson, thanks so much for being on Behind the Audition podcast.
Appreciate it, Curt. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening in on Behind the Audition podcast, made possible by Hilton Productions. If you need a male or female voiceover, contact us at hiltonproductions.com. Hilton Productions, let our voices do the selling.